What's up, everybody? Leighton Batiste, Josh McCouga here. We haven't done one of these in a minute, but the college football world is a buzz with the college football playoff and I guess you could say, snubbing of Florida State. Leighton,
I
your
mean,
thoughts?
I think this is why we all love college football, right? Like, I think the greatest thing just happened this weekend. I'll start off by saying this. Look, Florida State definitely got screwed, but
Yep.
the committee got it right. I think they got it right. I was excited when I saw the 14 playoff. I was excited for the matchups. I'm not a Bama fan. I'm not a fan of either of these teams, but I feel like they got it right, staying true to the best four teams. But Florida State got screwed.
Okay. I will tell you what, I was more shocked that Georgia didn't get in than I was Florida State not getting in. Now,
Well,
okay.
go ahead.
So, obviously the SEC, and I know you're an SEC guy, and there's a giant SEC bias. There always will be. As a Big Ten fan that is now going to include like half the Pac-12, I don't even know what the Big Ten is anymore. I don't even know what college football is going to look like in like 2 or 3 years. This is like, like imagine just it blows the mind what this is actually going to look like in a few years. A lot of these rivalries are being destroyed, all this kind of stuff. But what I think is great about this, the SEC bias, they needed a team. They had to get a team. The fact that they gave it to Alabama is wild, and that the only loss Georgia had all season was to Alabama. And it was, for the most part, it was Alabama's game. I mean,
it was Alabama's game. Yes, it was
Alabama's game.
There was a lot of Georgia's offense looked very limited in that game. Yeah,
limited, right? And I think as much as they would never admit this, I think that college football playoff committee there is like a 20% entertainment value involved in that vote.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Okay. So they know that Florida State is limited. They put up 16 points against Louisville. Okay. And we've talked about this on Back to Work. The 10th ranked team in college football, which is Louisville, against at that point is what? Florida State's 3, 4?
Florida State was number 4. Yeah.
4. Okay. The fact that they only put up 16 points on a Louisville team that, I mean, what was Louisville's signature win this year? Notre Dame?
Yeah, that was really it. Right? I mean, the rest of the ACC is abysmal.
Clemson didn't even show up this year. Dabo Swinney just took a year off. You didn't hear a thing about Clemson until after week 2. You didn't hear anything about him.
It wasn't until they beat Notre Dame later on in the season.
Right.
I guess that was a shocker. Yeah.
And I mean, I think Florida State's biggest, and you should speak to this. Florida State's biggest gripe is that they beat LSU.
Yeah. Well, because at that time, LSU was a top 10 team in the country.
Sure.
Right. Here's my thing. I think Florida State did everything they were supposed to do. I'll give them credit on that. They got snubbed by the most annoying element of college football, and that's the eye test. That's really what hurt them. It was that, look, I get it. You win. I know you only had a week to prepare with your third string quarterback, but even then you came out there, and how people talk about LSU, where you have a top 5 offense and a bottom of the barrel defense. Florida State looked like a top 5 defense and a bottom of a barrel offense.
Yes.
Is that simple?
Yes. And the fact that college football, because there's so many teams, does not have a tiebreaker of sorts is really what stung them in the bunghole on this one. Now, Florida State is obviously I'm not going to say second tier, but they are barely a top 10 team without Jordan Travis.
Right. Yeah.
They are. And the college football playoff committee said as much. Where the college football committee also gets hamstrung is that they have no malleability to say, hey, there are 6 teams that deserve to be in here. Let's do a bye, like the JJ Watt tweet.
Yeah.
Let's give Michigan and Washington the bye because they're the undefeated teams. You put all the other 1-loss teams in there and Florida State, apparently.
Right.
Let them play. The winners go on to play because we're going to get the bowl game, the biggest bowl game in the last 10 years that isn't a college football playoff bowl game.
Yeah.
In Georgia, Florida State.
Yeah, the Orange Bowl is going to be a sight to see. I'm actually excited for that matchup. But like I said, look, I think the eye test hurt them. If anything I thought was going to happen, I felt that Florida State losing was the only way Georgia was going to get back into the playoffs. But even then, I do think from a Georgia perspective, if I lose to Alabama, who's number 8, I'm the 2-time defending national champ. I'm number 1 in the country. They probably should have only dropped to number 4.
Yes.
Because Michigan did their job. Washington did their job. Texas did their job. If you were going to hold the eye test over Florida State, then drop Georgia in at number 4, and Bama still stays out. But I'm not opposed to Bama being in. But at the very least, I felt like if I lose in my conference championship game to a top 10 team, I should only drop to 4. Maybe.
Yes.
But
so basically what you're saying is that the college football playoff should be Washington, Michigan, Florida State, Alabama?
No, that's not what I was saying. If it wasn't this matchup, instead of Bama, it should have been Georgia. That's what I was saying. I don't think that losing to Bama in the SEC championship should have knocked them out the playoffs if this is what they were going to do. If you all were going to look at a third string quarterback leading Florida State to a 16-6 win and say, the eye test tells me you're not the best, even if Georgia loses the SEC championship, maybe they only drop to 4. But having Bama jump from 8 to 4, and then Georgia has to drop out the playoffs, that was the only thing. I'm not upset either way. I'm glad that there's still at least one of those teams in the playoff. But at the same time, I can understand why Florida State didn't get in.
Does Texas deserve to be in over Florida State?
Yeah, because they beat Bama. I would argue
early.
I would argue Texas's win over Bama earlier in the season over the course of the season is more attractive than Florida State's win over LSU.
Yes.
Because both teams are top 10 teams.
Agreed. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
God, at the end of the day, the beautiful thing about this way,
it's the last year of it.
It's the last year of it. And now it leads us into the 12-team melee that is next year.
Yeah.
Because college football is like, hey, look, we created the last controversy. Mm-hmm. We created the last one. And now we're giving you what you want. This controversy is over. We're giving you 12 teams.
Yeah.
Here's the check. We're going to spit in your food. Take it with what you will.
I'm sorry. I still feel as though even with a 12-team playoff, we avoided one melee playoff game to get potentially 3. I think there's going to be way more there's going to be way more blowouts in a 12-team playoff. There's going to be the first time where we really get to see some of these teams in other conferences. And I'm not guaranteeing that a lot of these are going to be SEC teams. I think there are definitely going to be some Big Ten teams that are going to show that they're stronger than some SEC teams, or there's going to be some maybe Big 12 teams come out there with their high-flying offense, especially the potential of the Big 12 getting big. Did you hear about that, right? About what happened last night?
No, tell me.
Like 12 ACC teams had a phone call about joining the Big 12.
12 of them?
Yeah. That number could be off, but it was almost half the conference was on the phone call last night about joining the Big 12. So we're looking at the ACC not existing, which is a consolation for Florida State. Your door to the SEC is open sooner than you think. So,
I would think Pitt would go, Clemson would go, Florida State should go
to the Big 12.
Well, Florida State should go to the SEC, but
I was like Florida State and Clemson at least.
SEC. Yeah. But if all these ACC teams are calling the Big 12,
Virginia Tech should go.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I've heard rumors of Georgia Tech joining the Big 10. What are your thoughts there?
I love that.
What about Miami in the Big 10?
That makes sense. But Miami going to the SEC makes more sense.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Put all the Florida teams in the SEC. There's already one there.
Yeah, okay. But I think Florida's like Texas A&M. I don't want anybody else in here. I wanted to be the only one.
That's true.
Yeah.
Man. All right. So now that we have the 4 teams, who wins this thing? F it. I'm saying Alabama.
I am too. I think I want an Alabama-Texas national championship, and I think it's hard to beat. We have yet to see somebody play Bama in a regular season, see them in the national championship and beat them.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen. The last team who could have done it was LSU, and that was a curb stomping. So the question is, can Texas beat Alabama twice in the same season?
Yeah.
And you saw the reaction video of Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of already know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm thinking like early lines on these games, right? Is probably Alabama minus 3.5 over Michigan, right? They're Michigan's going to be, I mean, Alabama's going to be the dog, right?
yeah,
Like so they're going to give, they're going to give Michigan probably 3.5. And then I think Texas is going to be like possibly like 5.5 against Washington.
you don't think more?
It might bump to a touchdown depending on where like the sharp money goes, but I don't know. I personally think Texas. I think Texas might put a hurting on Washington.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it is the Pac-12. Everyone's talking about, oh, they were a better conference this year. They were probably the better conference all season. Were they? I don't know.
It's hard.
It is
it's
because
just there was parity in that league.
Correct. Parity as compared to like the top of the Big Ten was Ohio State, Michigan, then Penn State, then everybody else.
Right.
Where in the Pac-12 it was Washington and Oregon and Utah and at points USC.
Right.
There were more Washington State, Oregon State, for Christ's sake, right?
I mean, at least for the first 4 weeks, we were even considering Colorado. Like, it was
right.
So much parity out west. Yeah.
Right. Big 12, kind of a different story, right? Like Oklahoma State had their shine, but it was Oklahoma and Texas, like it always is. Kansas a little bit. Kansas, I mean, there just wasn't SEC, I guess this year, same thing. It was like Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and then kind of everybody else.
There was a period where folks were looking at Missouri, but we kind of knew.
I hate when somebody says, like, would you want to play Missouri right now? Yeah, I'll play Missouri anytime. It's
every day. Every day. Give me Missouri every day. Come on.
These are the teams that don't show up. And you know what? What is a stink on my conference on the Big Ten, which I have no idea what it'll be like in 2 years. Be the Big 60. Who the F knows? But Iowa doesn't score a point against Michigan. Not only did they not score a point against Michigan, Leighton, they didn't score a point against Penn State.
Yeah. I need to get rid of divisions. Or I think you all need the Dan Snyder Ferentz. Y'all need the Dan Snyder him. They need all the same way all the coaches came together to get Jim Harbaugh suspended. Y'all need to get this guy fired.
Good Lord. Like, show me something.
And I think the reason why it hurts is because it seems like every team has to prepare to play Iowa, which means you're probably going to play down. Like, schematically, you're going to play down, and it hurts your league. It's going to hurt your points per game. It's going to hurt your QBR. Any statistic, it's probably going to like the worst game you played all season. It's like, no, I don't think you understand. They were lined up in the wing tee.
Leighton, the over was 32.5 points in a conference championship game. Supposedly the best two teams in that conference. 32.5. And Michigan almost hit it on their own.
Yeah.
The best play for Iowa all game was a special teams player chasing down an almost kickoff return. Yeah. That's the best play of the game?
Yes. Actually, I am mad Michigan didn't crack the 30 points.
I know.
I did look at them a little bit with a side eye. Like,
Yeah. I think the only thing more embarrassing is the fact that there was an NFL game yesterday and the final score was 6-0, and there wasn't even weather to blame.
I wonder if there's a Patriots fan that's like in the corner of the stadium and sees all these other Patriots fans that are like going crazy, like, oh no, this is how it used to be. Welcome. Let me tell you about the old days. This is how you navigate it.
Kids, sit around the fire. Welcome. Welcome.
Yeah. Let's go find ourselves another quarterback from the state of Michigan that we can groom.
Yep.
So,
man, okay. So we're both saying Alabama. We both think Michigan and Washington are gonna. I mean, Alabama's gonna be favorite, and Texas is gonna be the favorite. And if Quinn Ewers plays like he played on Saturday,
what do you think that means for Arch Manning? Because Quinn Ewers, he's thinking about coming back. So if you're Cooper Manning, if you're his uncles, do you say, hey, stay? Do you stay or do you?
I think you stay. I think you stay. Maybe not. I mean, again, is Arch Manning good? We don't know. We don't know. We haven't been given anything from Texas to say like Arch Manning is competing to take out Quinn Ewers. And there's been no other things like Arch Manning's got to go. Arch Manning's got to find a place to play. I mean, if he's under Sarkisian and he's learning the game, I think the Mannings are a patient family. They're like, hey, we know what we're in for. We're not going to be the angry youth football parent that's like, my kid needs playing time and their kid sucks. Right. I think the Mannings probably see like a really good opportunity here for Arch Manning to watch and learn and be a part of it. And by the way, probably the quietest story all year in football that I thought was going to be bigger was nobody even talks about it. Nobody's talked about it all season long.
Right.
And you know why? Because winning shuts people up, and that's Texas was winning.
Yeah. It would be different if Texas didn't win the Big 12. Then it's like, well, should you have put Arch in? When do you put him in? What does Sark doing? And yeah, that makes sense.